Hello, we are the Joe Breakers. Today, we are presenting to you about Chapter 6, Microeconomic Problems. I am Amira Aisha.
Hi, I am Ainatul Maria.
Hello, my name is Maisara.
Hi, my name is Alia.
Hi, my name is Anis Madiha.
I will start with what is an inflation. Inflation defined as the rate of upward movement in the price level of an aggregate of goods and services. It is a situation where there is too much money chasing too few goods. There is an inverse relationship between inflation and the value of money. Measuring inflation. Inflation is measured by the Consumer Price Index data over a period of months or years. An increase in this cost is called inflation, however, a decrease in this cost is called deflation. Formula of Consumer Price Index. Formula of inflation rate.
There are various degrees of inflation. There are 6 of them, which is creeping, walking, running, galloping, hyperinflation, and stagflation. What are the characteristics of these? Firstly, creeping, prices rises less than or up to 3% per annum. Secondly, walking, 3 to 10, and for running, 10 to 20. Then galloping, prices rise between 20 to 1,000. Hyperinflation, prices skyrocket more than 50% or above 1,000% per annum. And stagflation is stagnant economic growth combined with high rates of inflation and unemployment. To get a better understanding, let's take a look at this conceptual graph.
Types and causes of inflation: demand pull inflation, cost push inflation, and monetary inflation. Demand pull inflation. It is caused by an excess in spending that causes of too much money supply in the economy through the government budget deficit. This is the graph of demand pull inflation. Cost push inflation is caused by an increase in cost of the production for each unit of the output produced. This is the graph of the cost push inflation. Aggregate supply curve shift due to which push inflation, import push inflation, profit push inflation, tax push inflation, exhaustion of natural resources, and fall in exchange rate. Which push inflation occurs due to an increase in the wage level which will lead to increase in the cost of production and the output price. Import push inflation occurs when the prices of the imported raw materials or finished good increase. Profit push inflation occurs when a certain producer or monopoly stock up on the goods and create an artificial shortage. Tax push inflation: producers allowed to pass on the increase in the indirect taxes to the consumer. Exhaustion of the natural resources occurs when the main resource becomes scarce and will cause increasation of the price. Fall in the exchange rate: a fall in the external value of the country's currency will worsen inflation as lower exchange rate will cause imports to be more expensive. The last type of the inflation is monetary inflation. It is an over-expansion of the money supply.
Effect of inflation. Anticipated inflation. Positive and negative effect. Unanticipated inflation. Redistribution of income. Discourages investment and savings. Affects the balance of payment. Breakdowns in the function of money.
Next, measures to control inflation. A government can use either contractionary fiscal policy, contractionary monetary policy, or direct control to control inflation. The two tools of budget surplus are reducing government expenditure and increasing taxation to decrease the aggregate demand. The central bank reduces the money supply using open market operations, raising the required reserve ratio, calling off special deposits, and increasing the rate of interest, which decrease the aggregate demand. Indirect control, income policy, price control and rationing, supply-side policies to increase productivity, and increase in savings can be used to control cost-push inflation.
Introduction of unemployment. Total population of economically active and inactive groups. The size of labor force is determined by several factors. Voluntary unemployment. Involuntary unemployment.
Measuring unemployment. The labor force participation rate is the proportion of the labor force to the working age population. Unemployment rate is the proportion of the unemployed person to the total labor force.
Types of unemployment: classical, frictional, seasonal, technological, structural, and cyclical. Classical unemployment. Frictional unemployment. Seasonal unemployment. Structural unemployment. Technological unemployment. Cyclical unemployment. However, higher rate of inflation will happen.
Effects of unemployment. Effects to an individual. Individuals will lose their sources of income, lose their job skills, can lead to depression and suicide, low self-esteem, and may become homeless. Effects to an economy. Loss in government revenues as the tax will be decreased. National income and standard of living of a country may decrease. Effect to society. Social problems such as drugs and crime will arise. People may have more moral values. Lastly, can lead to family splitting.
Lastly, relationship between inflation and unemployment. In 1958, A. W. Phillips observed that there was a strong inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. Inverse relationship between two quantities such that the more of one that exists, the less of the other exists and vice versa. The graph of inverse relationship is called as Phillips curve. The short-run Phillips curve shows there is an inverse relationship between inflation and employment in the short run. Policymakers cannot influence either inflation and employment without affecting others. In the long-run Phillips curve, the rate of inflation does not affect the natural rate of unemployment. Natural rate of unemployment is amount of unemployment that occurs when the economy is at full employment and it is affected by the relationship of unemployment and inflation is depending on natural rate of unemployment, aggregate supply, and whether economy has adjusted to reach natural state of unemployment.